Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's AGP webinar. I'm Lisa, I'm the AGP administrator, just here helping to facilitate the session alongside Barry Turner. I'll hand you over to Barry in a moment. Just before I do, I can see most of you have got your microphones on mute. If you could just pop them on there for me, just to avoid any interference or background noise during the session. We will be open to question and answers later on in the webinar. So obviously then you can come off the microphone and ask your questions then, or if you prefer, you can just pop them into the chat facility and we'll try to get those answered for you at the end. If you need any support during the webinar, I'll be monitoring the chat. So any problems, just ask on there. It will be recorded just to help us to collate any questions or comments which may be missed during the webinar. If you have any questions or concerns about this, please do let us know. If you can just pop on to the next slide for me, Barry. So we've got after this webinar, I'll be sending out 2 emails. We just need you to require you to sign a digital registration form for the Welsh Government. So this will come to you via HelloSign. It's got a link in there, easy to follow, literally takes less than a minute. So if you could do that and send it back to me, it just allows us to confirm to the Welsh Government that this webinar took place and how many attended. So it is really important to fill these in for us. You'll also receive an email with a link to 2 surveys to provide feedback to us. So please, could you complete these? Some of you will have been on hundreds of these webinars so far. So the COVID-19 one, you only need to do once. But the other one, which is actually giving feedback on this webinar, would be really helpful to us and to Barry as well. So if we're good to go, Barry, I'll hand it all back over to you now.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, folks. As Lisa said, my name is Barry Turner. This is a brief look at the contents this morning. So intro and objectives, what challenges are we facing as businesses in today's environment? What is nurturing and why do we do it? Classic nurturing. A look at the marketing funnel and how we're going to adapt that for today's circumstances. How to get an understanding of your customer situation, what marketing tactics to adopt, we'll talk about content. I've got a couple of examples to talk through, one from a local business, some from more national businesses. We'll then briefly touch on budget and guidelines for communicating in times of crisis, a methodology for identifying marketing assets that you can use again. And then finally, I've got a list of references and tools that you'll get when you receive a copy of the PowerPoint. So in terms of objectives, my goal this morning is to provide you with a set of tips and actions to enable you to go away and implement an effective customer nurturing program within your companies. And secondly, to enable that, to enable you to write your own customer nurturing action plan for your company. Why me? I've been leading and consulting with marketing teams across several markets for the past 10 years. And prior to that, I have extensive sales leaders and sales leadership experience across a number of different markets in the UK and broader. And in the past 5 years, I've conducted sales and marketing consulting sessions with over 30 organisations, the bulk of which has been through the AGP programme here in South Wales. So let's look at the challenge. So in the blue speech captions are a list of comments I've had from clients over the course of the past 5 or 6 weeks. Talking about their businesses and their customers in the main. Customers have stopped buying. So, and I know, well, certainly we've got one person on the webinar this morning has direct experience of a real drop in pipeline coming through. At the other extreme, I've got one client who are completely flooded out with orders and have logistical issues. So we've got 2 extremes there. More commonly than being flooded out, we're seeing customers pushing for extra time to pay, customers looking for extra discounts, the person you're having contact problems, the person that you need to talk to get an order pushed through is in furlough. You're having projects delayed. Certainly, I've had a number of projects and engagements pushed back to 2 or 3 months. One has been pushed back it will take place at some point, probably in Q3 this year, but we haven't yet set a date. So I'm hopefully some of those challenges that we see and comments are resonating with what you're experiencing within your own businesses. And I would summarize those as saying broad for most businesses, and there are exceptions, as I said, the majority of customers have delayed or stopped ordering. And what that means is there's a danger we'll stop communicating with them and interacting with them. And this presentation is designed to give you some marketing tactics to ensure you stay engaged with your clients for the duration of the current situation, however long that may be. So what is nurturing and why do we do it? So lead nurturing is the process of developing relationships with buyers at every stage of the funnel and through every step of the buyer's journey. It's a strategy that came out of marketing automation, and I'll talk that through in a wee bit more detail on the next slide. And its aim is to focus marketing and communication efforts on listening to prospects and providing information and answers they need. And it's based on some hard sort of reality and hard stats, which you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. So, and these come from a variety of different sources. On average, 50% of the leads in any system are not yet ready to buy. So we, earlier this year, myself and my wife bought a new car. So decided after 14 years, it was time to replace the Renault Clio. And we spent a couple of months looking around at different models and searching the market. At that point, I'm a lead to a car sales person in South Wales, but I'm not ready to buy. So 50% of the leads in any system are not yet ready to buy. Almost 80% of new leads never become sales, right? And they might go to competition, they might never buy. There's a whole host of reasons behind that. Companies that excel at nurturing, and this is for me is really impactful, generate 50% more sales, 50% more sales-ready leads at a 33% lower cost. Essentially, what that is saying is if you nurture your leads carefully, as you would do, you know, if for the gardeners amongst us, I wouldn't include myself in that statement, but for the gardeners amongst us, when you nurture your plants, they grow healthier and better, and the same with your leads. And finally, nurtured leads tend to make 47% larger purchases than non-nurtured leads. And nurturing in this instance, as we'll talk about in the next slide, it is helping as buyers or leads contact you through digital means and come to your website. It's the process of engaging with them and interacting with them, mainly in an automated process. And I've for the sake of today's presentation, I'll call that classic nurturing. So it makes use of marketing automation tools to build trust with potential customers. Marketing automation tools are tools that sit in the background behind your website. So if I come onto your website and I research one of your products and services and go away, you've probably captured a cookie, so you know who I am. The next time I come back and I look at a couple of more pages, I spend a bit longer on the website, the marketing automation engine recognizes that and then tracks my journey as I progress. But it doesn't just track my journey, it will send me content. So in the case of the car, Had I been looking and research, we ended up with a Hyundai 10. Had I been researching on Hyundai's site and they were using marketing automation, it might well have sent me some brochures or some information about 2 or 3 of their smaller models, or maybe even offers. And they, on the right hand side of the screen, the products on the market that are available that do this. So Marketo and the Salesforce Pardo are both broadly enterprise aimed at the enterprise market. Keep and HubSpot are 2 very, very capable products that are available and priced up for small and mid-sized businesses. Keep used to be called Infusionsoft, and I've worked with a couple of quite small companies. One had 8 employees who use Keep really successfully, and paid quite a reasonable. I think at the time, this was a couple of years ago, they were paying about £500 a month, but for that they were getting a very high level of functionality. So that's classic nurturing. It's the use of automated tools to engage with and listen to your customers. Excuse me. I want to take a step back and just think about the marketing funnel at the moment. The marketing funnel is a standard marketing concept that looks at the customer's buying cycle as they move from awareness through interest, consideration, purchase, and retention. And there are a number of different models. Some are more elaborate, some are more simplified than this, but it's a relative, and any marketeers with a new company, I would expect to be familiar with either that model or one very similar. Classic nurturing, so using the automated tools I've just talked about, typically takes place when you're looking to increase awareness, generate interest, and generate consideration, and move clients into the purchase stage. I think in today's marketplace, where we've got some extraordinary events taking place and quite very, very unusual, hopefully once in a lifetime commercial environment, I think we need to turn that on its head and apply those nurturing principles into our existing customers. And I've called that crisis nurturing. And the reason I think we need to be doing that is many of our customers are, as we looked at in the earlier slide, they're putting people into furlough. They've got reduced cash available to invest in your products and services, and we're not sure how long that's going to last. So from a marketing perspective, the key thing you need to be doing is maintaining contact with those clients and making sure that when we emerge from the current situation, you've maintained your profile, you've maintained your branding with them, and you've displayed a high level of empathy with the circumstances and the situation with which they find themselves. And then when we come out of that process, you'll be in a good position to engage with them and get things back to a more standard way of operating with them. And I've termed that crisis nurturing.
Barry, sorry, before you
Hi.
go on to the next one,
Yep.
Somebody's just put in the chat, you've got the next slide one coming up. Can you put it into the full slide on the one that you've got? So get the full screen of it, if possible.
I am showing the full screen. Let me... do that again. So on my monitor, I've got the full screen showing.
Yeah, we've got the slide, the marketing funnel, but on the side down, we've got the showing of the next slide.
Wow.
So whether you can just put the one slide in at a time. So that's just the one slide on the full screen.
Yeah, I'm not. Let me come out of this then. Is that better?
But yeah, that's just got the whole of the PowerPoint on there. That's, yeah, it's just got the one screen on there. That's fine, though, the one slide.
Is that better, Lisa?
Um,
Unfortunately, I can't see what you're seeing, you see. So
okay.
I can only see, when I'm sharing, I can only see my PowerPoint.
Have you got it in presentation mode?
I've got share screen. So let's stop sharing. So I just click share screen?
Yeah. And there should be on there to just put presentation mode, and then it should play.
So I'm doing exactly the same as I did last time. So I'm going into presentation mode in PowerPoint now. So I can just see my slide. I'm not sure how to solve the issue, Lisa. Perhaps if we can park that and come back to it for next time.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It might take. I'm conscious of time, and I don't.
Yeah, no problem.
If we start playing, it might take a while.
Yeah, I can send the slides out to people, anybody wanting them anyway, so they can go through.
Yeah, and if anyone wants a phone call afterwards, I'm very happy to set up a call and talk through any of the ideas we've looked at. Okay. So, just to reset, we've looked at the marketing funnel, we've discussed classic nurturing, and we're now going to start looking at applying those nurturing techniques in with your existing customers, with the intention of keeping them engaged with you during the current crisis situation. So the first piece I want to touch on is how to get an understanding of your customer's situation. Your customers will be going through a variety of different emotions and a variety of different challenges, as we saw on the first slide. So listen to them. Understand their priorities. So find out how to help them. And it might not be obvious, and it might be something you can do. And I've got a couple of examples that later when we look at some examples. It might be you've got stuff you can do to help them that is low impact and low in cost for you, a low cost for yourselves, but has a high value for them. Also, I suggest you group clients into what I've called crisis segments. And I've put 4 down here. So that's customers who are continuing to grow because they are around. Customers who've put their staff into furlough. And I certainly got a number of clients who've put either part of or the majority of their staff into furlough. Customers who are experiencing cash flow issues, and customers who are having supply chain issues. That's not exhaustive, that's just to give you some ideas. The reason I suggest you put clients into crisis segments is so that you can tailor the communication towards their needs. So if you've got a client who's got 50% or 60% of the staff in furlough, they probably don't want to be hearing about how to expand their customer base, because they put people into furlough because the customers aren't buying from them. And similarly, if you've got a customer who's growing very rapidly, then they probably don't need to hear about how to help them grow. So they may be more interested in how to manage the supply chain. So by putting people into broad segments in this way, you can start to tailor the messages that you send to them. So what marketing tactics to adopt? And I've sort of made an assumption that most of you will not have access to a marketing automation engine. So something like Keep or HubSpot. I might well be wrong on there, and apologies if I am. But I've grouped together a bunch of marketing tactics that can be done with someone, a marketing person within your offices or working with an agency, without the need to resort to investing in marketing automation. And most of them you'll be familiar with. So emails, and I've got some examples of good emails later on. Newsletters with information that will help in the current crisis. And again, I've got some examples of that later on. Blogs on information that will help in the current crisis. So, and that, I'm not sure what business you're in, but blogs that will help reflect that you understand your client's situation and give them some advice. And one area I'm familiar with is information security, and there's a number of the information security companies at the moment who are putting blogs out there on how to ensure that your information security is up to speed in the current crisis. Demonstrations. So if you can do this virtually using Zoom or using whichever collaboration tool you use, demonstrations of products and services are a good way of engaging with clients and help in educating and helping build the knowledge. Giveaways. And again, I've got an example of a giveaway we'll talk about from a local company in a couple of minutes. So, and in particular with giveaways, if you've got items that have a low cost to yourself, but have a high value to the client, then giving them away is a way of engaging with that customer and keeping your brand at the forefront of their mind over the next few months. Offers and promotions. So it might well be that one way of moving this forward is to look at how you can package services and products together, maybe use some form of package discounting to try and accelerate people into the pipeline. As I'm not familiar with the markets that you're all operating in, it's quite difficult for me to be more specific than that. But certainly that offers and promotions are a way that many companies are using at the moment. An example of that, I was due to go on holiday in the third week in March. We were going to Austria, and it got cancelled for obvious reasons. And the company I'd booked with have been brilliant. We were lucky that we got the full refund, and I realise that isn't always the case now. And what they did as a promotion, they sent me a discount off our next holiday, providing we book by the end of June. So that's got me thinking about, might be something of promotion I don't take because I think we're still in a state of uncertainty. But nevertheless, that promotion went a long way. So even if I don't accept it, what it did, it made me think very highly of that company. So when I come to book the same holiday next year, I'm almost certainly going to go back to the same company as a first stop. Customer surveys are a way of engaging with your client and understanding what's going on with them at the moment. Right, and there's lots of survey tools out there that you can use. SurveyMonkey is really effective, and surveys don't need to be extensive. I'm not talking about sending them 30 questions, because to be frank, you're unlikely to to get a response. But 5 questions. What are your other priorities in the current situation? How can you help? You'll get some responses coming back, and that will help inform you in terms of how to communicate with the clients moving forward. Regular customer calls. So I get my email and domain from GoDaddy. And GoDaddy, even though it's just my business is me, right? I don't have a huge turnover, but every 3 months, GoDaddy ring me, talk me through, find something to have a chat about, and I always come away from the conversation having learned something. So, if you've got people who are now not maxed out, have spare time, get them on the phone, ringing customers, finding out what's happening within the customers. Webinars and videos. So webinars like today can be put together and used as content on your website. They don't have to be as long as this one. This one will be about an hour in total. And similarly, video, if it's well produced, can be put together quite quickly and simply, and released on your website and through YouTube. And it's ways of keeping engaged with your clients, and use for all of those methods can be accelerated using social media to deliver some of the messaging. So can you see the next slide, Lisa?
I've got content is king.
Good. Yep. That's the one you should have. If you look at the piece that's highlighted in yellow, right? So content marketing is about creating and distributing valuable, relevant and consistent content. And the reason we do that is it's to attract and retain a specific audience. And particularly when the whole of digital marketing revolves around having suitable content. And at the moment, content that aims to educate and keep your customers engaged during the current crisis will be effective for you. And content can be a whole number of different things. So as we said on the previous slide, it might be a video. It might be emails, and we'll look at some examples of that. It might be some new content you've put onto your website, some new pages that you then push out with email and social media. One example to look at has got some interesting use of SMS, text messages. One of my favorites are case studies. Right? Case studies are really effective in terms of telling your story, demonstrating the value of your brand and your products and services to customers. So if you're able to get case studies, new ones, that's brilliant. If you've got case studies that have been put together over the last 2 or 3 years and they're still relevant, then please use those. And then blogs and podcasts, both of which are effective ways of generating content that can be easily accessed. But one rule is a sort of generalization is you can get away with using 20% original content. So that's stuff material that you write and create yourself or commission yourself, and 80% curated content. Curated content is where you identify relevant material from that other people have published, and use that with your clients. I tend to use curated content fairly heavily on LinkedIn. I don't just push it out there. I'll put some wrap. So I posted some information on information security a couple of days ago on LinkedIn that one of my colleagues had published, and just put a little wrap about here's some information and tips on how to improve your information security in the current situation. I always acknowledge sources, so it doesn't do you any credit if you try and push the content out as your own. The message here for me is you don't need to spend hours and hours and hours creating stuff, and there are tools out there like Feedly that will help you identify curated content. So a couple of examples. The first one is Coates Physiotherapy. Can you see the slide, Lisa?
Yeah, saw that.
Coates Physiotherapy are a physio company operating in South East Wales. They've got offices in Newport, premises in Newport, Chepstow and Monmouth. And as one of the joys, those of you who know me, one of the joys in my life is going out running. And as with virtually every other runner on the planet, I get injuries and niggles and need to go and see someone. And Coates tends to be the place that I go to. If you look at and physiotherapy businesses have been really hard hit by the current situation, because you can't be a physio and do social distancing. It's just it can't happen. So what they're doing to stay engaged with their clients is, if you look at the top right of the screen, I received a text message on Tuesday the 7th of April, and giving me a coupon to go on their Physio in a Box website, which you can see on the left hand side, and get free access to the videos, blogs and podcasts. And for me, that was a super example of something that doesn't cost them anything. Right? The website's there. They're giving me something of high value, access to all the content, and it's building a lot of brand value for them, because next time I need a physio, as I'm sure I will do, I'm going to go back to Coates. So that's one example of a giveaway. The next couple of examples are emails, and there's an example from BT, one from Corn Ferry, who are a HR consultancy, and another one from a company called LastPass, who do some cyber security toolkits. So the BT one is interesting. It's given me some information and help on how to get more from my the broadband and the tools I get from them during the current crisis by using call diversion. So they're acknowledging the fact that we're in and you can see from the email, it's called coronavirus and how to divert your calls. They're and giving me some help and guidance on how to get more value from the services they're selling to me. The Corn Ferry one is an invite to a webinar, again on something that's topical for the current crisis. And then the LastPass is about how to get some basics for improving information security. So all three of them are offering helpful tips and advice to make me more productive and safe whilst working from home. And again, they've been low cost to the people that have put these together. They've got high value for me, not just because I've used them example on the webinar, and they go a long way to enhancing the brand during the current crisis. So what budget do I need? And this depends on, talking about budget, marketing budget, is very much how long is a piece of string, right? So it depends on your resources. I understand many of you are going to be managing your cash flow really tightly at the moment. So marketing may not be your first priority. But many tasks can be done in-house. So certainly emails can be written and can be sent out in-house. You don't need to spend money on that. SME marketing budgets vary from sort of 5 to 16% of revenue. Investing in marketing, I would argue, is very much a must. And there's some stats there from I picked up online to show that SMEs who invest in marketing see very strong returns for their money. The proviso I'd put there is that the marketing investment is done wisely, and you've got the right skills and resources to help you do that. I'm not going to try and advise you how much money you need to spend, because I think you need to look at what cash you've got available. I would say there's a lot you can do if you've got people with spare time available within the business, and there's lots of training they can get online that gets them up to speed quickly in how to do emails or how to do some basics of digital marketing. Some guidelines for communicating in times of crisis. Be proactive in your communications. Show that you care. 3 examples of the emails and also the text message from Coach Physio, all were being proactive, all demonstrated that they care about my business in the current situation. Offer a shoulder to lean on, be empathic with people. Inspire your audience to take advantage of the current situation. There will be lots of upsides and opportunities that come out of the current situation. And audit your content queue, and I'll touch on that in more detail on the next slide. And we're nearly there now, Lisa. So identifying marketing assets that can be reused. So first point of I would suggest there is your customer data is king. And I'm perhaps repeating myself there, I've just realised, because I said earlier content is king. Perhaps I should rephrase that. Customer data is critical, right? So review your customer data, make sure it's up to date, make sure you've got opt-ins and it is usable and effective for you. Perform a marketing audit. So when you get the PowerPoint, you will find in there's embedded an Excel worksheet that is a marketing audit template I use with clients. And this takes you through, it basically lists all of your marketing assets, and you'll probably be surprised how many of those that you have, and gives you some ability to put comments and rate their effectiveness. So by performing a marketing audit, you'll get an understanding of what social media platforms you're using, what websites you've got, what content do you have, what marketing tools do you have, what skills and resources do you have available, and also you'll review the content and identify content that is appropriate and also inappropriate in the current environment. So please do make use of the Agile program, of my company's Agile programs. Please do make use of that template. And if you've got any questions on it, my email and contact details are in there. And then finally, in the PowerPoint, when you get it, there's a list of references and tools. I'm not going to go through all of them. There are a mix of tools that can help you and references I've used to put the presentation together. And then the last slide is the promised action plan. And this is a very basic plan just to help you get your thinking together, decide what actions you're going to take, who's going to do it, and when you're going to get on and do that. So thank you for listening. I think we're now open to questions, are we, Lisa?
Yeah, if anybody wants to come off the microphone and ask a question or pop them in the chat. I have got one that's come up with the figures quoted. Does that include all aspects? For example, payroll for marketing, I'm guessing, on the figures quoted.
I'm assuming they mean about the budget figures. Typically, that doesn't include payroll. That usually looks at spend on marketing, content or programs or campaigns.
Does anyone want to come off the microphones and ask a question? No, you must have covered it well this morning, Barry.
Either that or everyone's happily falling asleep. So,
hey Barry,
hopefully
are you doing all right?
Oh, hang on, there's a voice.
Yeah.
One thing that we've experienced is that we've had customers coming to us, or maybe people are not customers at the moment, requesting free goods. Obviously, it's quite a sensitive subject, and we don't want to sort of point blank turn them down. But we'd like to be in a position where we can actually get something out of this. They've got any sort of advice around that?
I guess a lot depends on the value of the goods, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're reasonably high value.
So, I mean, Laura, who's on, knows me well. I tend to hate giving stuff away for free.
Yeah.
We never give things away for free, ever.
Simply because I think people don't value what they get for free.
Yeah, I mean, that's my opinion. But I mean, in this crisis, this particular customer was manufacturing PPE equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And they need a cleaner, which is what ultrasonic cleaner, which is what we manufacture. So they got in contact with us, and I think it's quite obvious they're actually charging for this PPE. But I think they were trying to take advantage of the coronavirus situation by expecting us to be quite charitable and helping them out, sort of thing, with a cleaner, which they probably wouldn't need after they've completed this project. But thank you very much.
How about you provide it on loan on the basis that they give you a case study at the end of it?
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, at least we get some marketing out of it, some value.
Yeah, and then you've got some value from it. You've not given it away, so, and you can tell the story. Yeah,
I mean, from a sales and marketing perspective, we don't like point blank turning people down. So if we can put an angle on it, I guess that's going to have value for everyone.
Yeah, and the key thing is there, you're loaning it rather than giving it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thanks. That's really helpful.
Good. Thank you. Any more questions?
Got nothing coming up on my chat. Everybody must be happy this morning.
No, I can just mention, Barry, again, I enjoyed your presentation this morning. It's Andrew Phillips on the list. I was thinking that rather than maybe a full giveaway, you could actually do a part giveaway, so that, if your normal charge for an introduction service was X, then maybe you could offer to do it at half that price or something like that, rather than a full giveaway,
Oh, absolutely. I it's difficult from me. Are you talking about a general conversation or Kevin's particular?
No, I'm thinking about my situation, which is we've got a small design offering in our business. It's conceptual as well, so it's trying to get to understand what the people really want, and if we produce a concept design, actually it's not a massive job for us to do that, but after that, it can lead to a commission for the full design project. So I'm now
absolutely, because it's what you want to avoid is the key for me with the giveaways is giving something that's got high value to the client, but low cost to yourself. So if one of your designers can spend a couple of hours, put a concept together, and that gets you on the next step along the procurement stage with them, I would say that's a win-win all round.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
I mean, it's difficult with professional services, isn't it? Because there's the grey line between pre-sales and actually doing the work gets very foggy.
Yeah, but I think if we can provide some kind of example of what the client would get, you know, that helps, probably will help us along and lead to a proper commission later, you know.
I would completely agree with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I think we're good this morning, Barry.
Good.
If anybody wants copies of the slides, then obviously as soon as we get your signatures back to confirm that you were on the webinar, then I can get those all sent over to you. And I think, Barry, as you said, you're happy to answer any questions if anything comes up to help out.
Absolutely, and my contact details are in the spreadsheet that's embedded in the PowerPoint. Okay. And I'm sure Lisa can provide the contact details if any of you need them.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. So thanks, Barry, for presenting this morning.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you, and thank you everyone for listening and the questions.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Bye now. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, bye now.
Bye-bye.